I've actually been wanting to make this video. And if medication is not a fun topic for you to sit and listen to, then this video is not the video for you. But I'm going to talk about getting on Adderall and getting off of Adderall and why I thought getting on Adderall was the best thing I could have done, but actually getting off of it was the best thing that I could have done. So we're about to go down all these rabbit holes. But before I start, I do want to tell you guys that I am not one to sit and say I'm against medication. And I'm also not one to sit and say, to take it, you have to take it. And I'm also not one to sit and say that you're making your problems up. So this is just my personal experience, and maybe it can help someone out there, because I sit and I research YouTube videos, before I start a medication, wean off of a medication. And sometimes I don't feel like people are open about this topic, or I just don't find the answer. So I just got off of Adderall after 2 years on it. And so I'm going to tell you how I got on it and why I got off of it and how I'm feeling. And it seems like every time I search, like, getting off of it, people just had really, really bad stories to tell, or they're like, this is it. I have ADHD. I have to get on it. And that wasn't the answer I was looking for, because I have to get off of it because I'm planning a pregnancy, and then getting off of it, to go through a pregnancy, because my original plan was to only get off of it for a pregnancy and then get right back on it. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be 9 months of hell. It just is. So let's backtrack. I've always known I had ADHD. And I just would sit in class and just couldn't pay attention. And I was all over the place. And my 2 older sisters were just so, it's like their brains worked and mine didn't. And I used to be like, what is wrong with me? They were like straight A students. And I thought, did something go wrong when I was being conceived? Like, when my brain was developing, why couldn't it develop like the people who can sit and pay attention and read a book and take a test and ace it? Like, that's the brain I want. But unfortunately, it's not the brain I got. However, because I have ADHD, my mom always drilled into me, and I think this is important for parents who have children with ADHD. My mom always said, you're creative. Let's utilize your ADHD. And now people are starting to come out and talk about it. Simone Biles, my biggest inspiration, just came out and was like, I have ADHD. It is what it is, but I'm a really creative person. And look what I turned it into. Do I have to tell you who she is? No, I don't. She is the world's best gymnast. But anyways, so when I was a kid, the teachers would tell my mom, she cannot pay attention in class. She's all over the place and she needs to be put on medication. So my mom took me to the doctors and we did medication. I don't know what medication my mom tried, but I remember vividly, going with my mom to the doctor, and within 2 weeks of me being on the medication, everything changed for me, and not for the better, for the worse. So I think maybe if I would have came to her and been like, Mom, this is amazing. I feel so normal. I love this, maybe she would have kept me on it. I really don't believe that medicine should be the first go-to. And I think that America does medicate too easy and too heavy. So she would be like, okay, doctor, this child of mine who is so outgoing and bright and creative is mute. She is numb. She's just sit. So it eliminated the problem of the teachers having to deal with this hyper child. But it did absolutely not one thing for me. It didn't benefit me in any way. It took away all my creativity. That was just gone. I wasn't even inspired. So that was my little short-lived route of trying to do medication as a kid. And then I did get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age 11, and insulin, once again, sometimes you need medication. I can't live off of insulin. But also, when I was diagnosed, I'll just tell you, the doctor looked at me and said, you can eat whatever you want, just cover it with insulin. That is not how diabetes works. And I've learned so much about type 1 through my own self research and my own body living with it than I ever learned from doctors. And I really think we just really push medication. But do I need insulin to live? Yes, but I don't need to be eating whatever I want. Like, the goal is to like have really good, have no insulin resistance and be taking the medication as a tool to be healthy, not to just eat what I want and take. I mean, that was a road to death. You should never tell anyone to eat what you want. Like, there is so much junk in our food. But anyways, moving forward, that was kind of my main focus through middle school and high school, was just graduating. And I stayed on track. I graduated. I had A's, B's, some C's. I didn't flunk. It was very hard for me to focus. But I really tapped into like my natural like state, and I learned like methods on how to live with ADHD and how to use ADHD to live the life I want. And I am living the life I want. I have a online fitness business, and I have for 7 years. And it's been very successful. So, and there's my power. There's my energy right there. But things crashed and burned in my life. And I'm not making this video to get into my personal life, but it does matter for the context of this video. I, have a really close-knit family. I'm very close to my family. I'm very close to my mom. And she was like healthy. She was a marathon runner. She ate healthy. You looked at her and you knew she's healthy. She ate like always just drank water, never drank alcohol, smoked anything. She was so healthy, and she got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and it really threw all of us through a loop. And I was very depressed. And while she was doing that, I got married at a very young age, had 3 kids before I was 21, got my tubes tied. Then my mom gets cancer, and I am on a reality TV show, so I loved sharing my mom's cancer story. I absolutely loved that. But while that was happening, who I was married to at the time, we were married for like almost 10 years. He was having affairs while my mom was sick and dying. And I was just depressed the whole last year I got with her. And then after I found out, something between him and a family member, and it just felt like everything was stomping me in the face, and I was trying to grieve and trying to be a mom and trying to run a business and dealing with this. And this completely rocked my world. I'll just say I lost myself. I went absolutely crazy, and still trying to push through and pretend like I'm a normal person. And I really wanted to share this part of my life on TV, but this part of my life was coming out. And because that's reality. Like, here's my life. And that was humiliating. Like, it was absolutely humiliating. I'm here to share this beautiful cancer story because my mom was beautiful, and she shared an amazing message, and that's what I wanted to share. And he kind of robbed a lot of that because people were like, oh shoot, he's having affairs. And so anyways, and I found out in the public eye, like I found out from magazine articles of people who saw him, and I really tried to recover from that, and I just never did. And I don't know how else to tell you guys that. I packed up and moved my whole life across the United States. Like, I lived in Middle America, Oklahoma, and now I live in Florida. So it was like 18 hours away, and took my kids, and then tried to work it out, and went through a divorce, and all this stuff was happening. And the thing is like, that's gonna wreck anyone's world. But when you have ADHD, you just can't thrive in that environment, and it makes the ADHD 10 times worse. So ADHD is not just in children. It followed me through adulthood, and it was at an all-time high. And when my mom died, I knew I'm not strong enough right now in this moment to go through this alone. So I got put on depression medication. And while it took away any high I'd ever have, I wasn't having highs. It took away me feeling any joy and highs, but it did take away the lows too. And the lows were very scary, and that's what I needed in that moment. So, like I said, do I think we should just medicate? No, but sometimes it's okay to be like, this is what I need in this moment. But the hard part is getting off. So when I moved, I quit cold turkey and remember like feeling a spurt of joy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling joyful. I just moved across the country and I just kind of restarted my life. And the depression med was very, very short lived, and it wasn't hard to come off of, but I was only on it for 6 months. So moving forward, when I tried to work it out with my ex again, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and more things happened, in the public eye. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like my business was going under. I would look at, everything was piling up. And that's when someone with ADHD just breaks. And I broke, but it didn't change the fact that bills still came. My kids still needed taken care of and fed. I was now not only a single mom, but doing it all by myself. I didn't have my mom to turn to, and usually I would turn to her in these moments, and I just tried. Like, I would wake up and be like, I'm strong, I got this. Now, I did a lot of healing in that time, medicine free. I did so much healing during, like, my divorce, but my world was crashing and burning, and it was just, like, so much piled up, more than one person could take on. And I could not figure out how to catch up. I could not figure out how to just get my house clean, my business back on top. It was like 10 years of work needed done in a month for me to not end up on the streets. And it was so overwhelming, and I broke every day. I just broke. I'm like, it's too much. I can't do it. And ADHD can't just like pick up and do it. So I started seeing therapists and like natural doctors and doing research. Meanwhile, I'm door dashing just to try to feed my kids. And like the front cortex of someone's brain with ADHD is not the same. And when you go through trauma, ADHD gets 10 times worse. And that's what was happening to me. It was like eating the front cortex of my brain. And I'm like, I'm not strong enough to do this. So someone I knew was like, I have ADHD and I just have to medicate. And I'm like, okay, that's what it is. I have to get on medication. And I'm like, well, maybe I should try it. So I got a doctor's appointment and was going in, and I took my first Adderall. My house was so clean and so organized. It took one day to do what my brain could not make happen in months, if not almost a year. I did it in a day. I moved 100 miles an hour. My dishes were shiny. You could lick my floors. They were so clean. I got a scrub daddy, and I scrubbed my house top to bottom. I kid you not. I washed all the bedding, all the towels. It was like I cried because I felt so normal. I'm like, if this is what normal humans feel like, I am missing out. And if I could just be on this every day and feel like this every day, I'm going to catch up so much and get my business where it needs to be, and won't be so behind anymore. I can save the house. I can, better feed my kids. Like, all this stuff was just like, it was so emotional. And then I went to work that night after cleaning my whole house top to bottom. I coached my kids, and they were like, wow, your coaching was top notch today. I was on the floor, I was up, and I'm like, I'm going to live on this. I am going to take this every day and live on this. So I got put on the medication, 10 milligrams. And after about a year, I read so many books that year. I caught up so much. Like, I caught up. I was just feeling so good. I always had energy. I was so productive. I was such a productive person. And then the doctor was like, hey, because I seen her every 3 months. She said, this is not always going to work like that. And you need to take breaks. You're going to have to take breaks. Because I'm like, this changed my whole life. And that's what I would research, is people are like, just take the Adderall. It's going to change your life. And it did. It started slowly not working. And this is only in the first year. And so she was like, take weekends off. I started taking weekends off. And when I would not take it on the weekends, I sat on the couch and did absolutely nothing. And I hated it. I knew I needed to do it, but weekends were now my least favorite. I mean, kids wanted to go swimming. Sorry. Mama did not take it. If I had anything to do on the weekend, and I'm talking like if someone wanted to go to lunch, if I wanted to go to church, I had to take an Adderall to even be a functioning human. And I'm like, I slowly started realizing this sucks. Like, Adderall makes me a human, and I am nothing without it. So I started really realizing how much I depend on Adderall just to live a normal life. And then Adderall caused sleep problems. So then I had to be put on a medication to help me sleep. And then that caused another problem. And it just like I kept band-aiding the problems. And I also was drinking a lot of caffeine, like Adderall and caffeine. I would drink it first thing in the morning and then at noon. And then because I would have these crashes, and then it spiraled out of control very quick. And I am like very like, yeah, but I always had my planner filled out. I always was on top of business. And so I would take weekends off, and weekends sucked. And then I was like, I'm slowly starting to realize Adderall's not working, doc. What do I need to do? And she said, you need to up your dose. And I'm like, so do I live my whole life like this? Because this is just 1 year in. And she was like, no, you up it until you're at your max, and then that's how you live. And then you take your breaks. And the breaks, like, I hated breaks because I didn't want to take a break. I hated those days. I did absolutely nothing. And I loved, and she was like, don't take it on days that you don't need to get anything done. But when you run a business, you always need to get something done. But it also made me like, if I seen a speck of dirt on my kitchen counter from afar away, don't even speak to me unless I go scrub it down. Like, I was like, and if people around me weren't on my level of let's clean this house until it is sparkling, I would freak out. So it did make me like a little like, I don't know. I just didn't really feel like myself anymore, if I'm going to be honest. But I absolutely did not care because I was getting stuff done. You know, I was a boss babe again. And then I upped the dose and was still taking weekends off. Well, as you guys know, I am going through IVF. And I knew you can't take Adderall while pregnant. And I knew I needed to get off. And they also, you know, you pay a lot of money to go through IVF. It's not like, surprise, you're pregnant. So I knew it was time, and they also wanted me to get off of caffeine. And I would try to slowly wean off, and it just didn't work because I would dump half the pill out, and I did do that. I cut my dose in half, and I was just a walking zombie. I really, really, really was. And then I would take weekends off, and don't even speak to me on weekends because nothing got done. And then Mondays, I was just a total bitch because the dishes weren't done, laundry, like I did nothing, I'm behind. Like, it was not a fun life to live. So this was not long ago. Now I am day 10 free from Adderall, and I have 1 cup of caffeine in the morning, whether it's coffee or green tea. I just have 1 cup in the morning, and I used to have 4 servings throughout the day. And here is what happened. The first 3 days, I slept. And some people say this takes 30 days. And I do think that slowly tapering down helped. But I am on day 10. I'm on day 9, 10. And I feel absolutely freaking amazing. And I know I will never take Adderall again. Did it help me get back up on my feet? Absolutely. Did I get addicted? Yes, I did. Did I start using it? Like, I was just, if I don't have my caffeine or Adderall, I'm not getting up and doing anything. And that's not me getting up and doing anything. That is a magic dose of something causing me to. So getting off, I've really had to tap into my natural energy and how to generate it. And I've read books on how to naturally deal with ADHD, so I don't go down this rabbit hole. And I started taking so many vitamins and drinking water. Like, I did this very right. And I feel like me again. And I feel like I'm able to love better. And I feel like I'm doing all these tactics to help with ADHD. When I get up and run, it's because that is my own state of energy. I've really tapped deep into all of that. And I'm Mackenzie again. And everything that I'm doing is because I worked hard and I chose to get up and do it. It's not because I took a bunch of caffeine. It's not because I took something to motivate me. But I feel very, very good. And with all the vitamins that I'm taking, and I will post them below, I just feel like this is just such a natural, and it makes me feel so much better when I accomplish something. When I go for a run, I'm like, I did that because I chose to do that. And I'm not dependent on anything. And I am so glad, because I think I would have lived on Adderall forever, because when I would take those weekends off, that's what I thought life would look like off of it. And it's not. That's withdrawal. But I would have never quit if it wasn't for trying to get pregnant. And I cannot tell you how glad I am that I quit. Now, am I glad that I took it so I could just find myself again? Yes. So if you do medication, use it as a tool to find yourself again. But also be aware that there are side effects. There's long-term side effects. Read into dementia. And I'm so glad that my mom didn't have me medicated my whole childhood, looking back, because how do you come off? After that many years, how do you come off? And I'm not saying don't medicate your child if your child absolutely needs it. That's not what I'm saying. But I am just speaking from experience that I'm so glad that I did not have to enter adulthood wondering, how can I get off of this stuff? Because my natural self is just thriving right now, and it is doing so amazing, and it feels so good, and I feel so good. And it is addictive. It is addictive. So definitely know what you're getting into when you give your child it or you take it, because you don't want to rob them from. ADHD is very creative, people. So definitely tap into how can we find natural ways, the vitamins, what is the root. Let's not band-aid the problem. Everything. I don't want to band-aid anything anymore. I actually want to dig deep and fix it. But sometimes people do need it, but it stops working after a while, and vitamins don't. So I feel like I'm actually fixing the problem. And I also want to say, I sleep like a baby. When it is time, my body, for the first time, and since I could remember, falls asleep on its own. When it's time to go to sleep, I can close my eyes and fall asleep. My partner, he does that every night, and I'm like, it must be nice to be God's chosen one. Like, what? Because I have to take all kinds of stuff to go to sleep, and then I have to take all kinds of stuff to get going in the day. Now I'm not taking anything, and it's like it's naturally finding its way to do what it's supposed to do. And that is my experience with why I got off, all the medication I've taken, and how I'm feeling now that I am detoxed from it. So I hope this helped anyone to whatever decision you're trying to make.